Welcome to the Supreme Grammar Podcast, where you can learn to write like a Supreme Court Justice, with me, Jill Barton. On this episode, I've asked our AI hosts to describe how to create parentheticals in sentences and citations. Let's listen in.
Welcome to the deep dive. Ever feel like you've got this extra bit of info, something crucial?
Yeah, something that could really light up your point in legal writing.
Exactly, but you don't want to, break the main flow of your argument.
Well, that's where today's topic comes in.
Right. We're talking about a secret weapon, maybe? The humble parenthesis.
It seems simple, but it's powerful. We've been digging into Chapter 11 of Jill Barton's The Supreme Guide to Writing.
And our goal here is to give you some really practical skills, stuff that'll instantly make your legal writing feel sharper, more modern.
Absolutely. We're focusing on two key ways to use parentheses. Think of it as a way to get that modern edge.
Conveying complex ideas clearly, but with a bit of finesse, too. And being able to layer information smartly without, drowning the reader, that's a real skill.
Start with something foundational. Parentheticals within citations.
Ah, okay. Lawyers use citations constantly, obviously.
All the time. But the interesting part is how you can use parentheses right there, inside the citation, to add extra context or explain something quickly.
So it makes the citation richer, without making the reader go hunt down the original source for every little detail.
Precisely. It works like a mini footnote, right?
Yeah, right there in a citation.
It sort of whispers that key background info, the why behind the statement being cited.
Saves the reader time, definitely.
And it strengthens your citation immediately because the context is built right in. It's just, sharper writing, more focused on the reader.
Like giving the why right with the what. I like that. It anticipates the reader's question.
Exactly. Okay, so that's citations. Let's shift gears to the second key use.
Which is parentheses within the actual sentences, like as asides.
Yes, exactly, asides. This is where parentheses get really versatile.
Okay.
Think of them as a way to inject a bit more detail or maybe a quick clarification.
Or even like a touch of personality without derailing the main argument.
You got it. Jill Barton brings up Justice Ginsburg, interestingly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Ginsburg apparently credited her old literature professor, Vladimir Nabokov.
The Lolita author.
That's the one. He was a master at using parentheses for these, little digressions in his writing.
Huh. Okay, so you have an example from Lolita.
We do. Let's hear it.
Okay. My very photogenic mother died in a freak accident, open parenthesis picnic, lightning close parenthesis when I was 3, and, save for a pocket of warmth in the darkest past, nothing of her subsists within the hollows and dells of memory, over which, if you can still stand my style, open parenthesis, I am writing under observation, close parenthesis, the sun of my infancy had set.
Wow. Yeah. You can really hear how Nabokov uses those parentheses, right? To add layers, that distinct voice.
Definitely. Without losing you somehow.
And the point Barton makes is, this isn't just for literature.
Right. You see it even in Supreme Court opinions.
Absolutely. Justices use parentheses for similar kinds of asides. It's a valid technique in formal writing, too.
Okay, so let's see some legal examples then. The book has some good ones.
How about this? Without first inserting the word that will open parenthesis, presto. Close parenthesis, produce the dissent's reading.
Huh. Presto. I like that. It adds a bit of flair.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A subtle wink, maybe. Shows a touch of personality, even in, dry procedural stuff.
Yeah, it's a way to inject voice without being, overly casual. What else?
And this one's interesting, too. The next clause, open parenthesis, but don't get attached. It will soon be superseded. Close parenthesis, set out the procedures the electors were to follow.
Oh, that's like talking directly to the reader, giving them a heads up.
Yeah, it creates a more engaging, almost conversational feel, even in a formal document.
Okay, and I think you mentioned a humorous one.
Yes, this one. That meant the leaders became president and vice president, respectively. Open parenthesis. One might think of this as fodder for a new season of Veep. Close parenthesis.
Right, okay, that's definitely using it for a bit of humor, making a dry point more memorable.
Taps into that shared cultural reverence. But, as you said earlier, you've got to be careful.
For sure. Balance is key. Consider the tone, the context. Humor isn't always appropriate in legal docs.
Definitely not. But it shows the range. Now, this brings up a good question. Why parentheses for these asides? Why not say commas or em dashes?
Good point. Barton addresses that, right?
She does. It's about the nuance. Commas tend to make you pause and give roughly equal weight to what's inside.
Okay.
Em dashes often emphasize the aside. They make it pop.
Right, like a louder interruption.
Exactly. But parentheses, they tend to, as Barton puts it, whisper the extra information.
Ah, like it's supplementary. Helpful, but not the main event.
Precisely. It doesn't disrupt the sentence's main flow in the same way.
Okay, that distinction makes a lot of sense. Commas integrate, dashes emphasize, parentheses whisper.
You got it. So we've covered parentheticals and citations, and these kinds of asides and sentences.
Right. Now, there's one more detail we need to nail down, something that really signals you know your stuff.
Ah, yes. Period placement.
Where does a period go when you've got parentheses involved? It seems fiddly, but it matters.
It absolutely matters for precision. And the basic rule depends on what's inside the parentheses. Is it a complete sentence or just part of the main one?
So what if the parenthetical is a complete sentence?
Good question. Look at this example. They and their wives sued state court. Open parenthesis. McAfee and DeVries later died during the course of the ongoing litigation. Close parenthesis.
Ah, period inside the closing parenthesis that time.
Exactly. Because McAfee and DeVries later died is a full, complete sentence. So it gets its own period inside the parentheses.
Okay, one period for the main sentence before it, one for the parenthetical sentence inside.
Correct. Now, citations can sometimes look a bit more complex, but the logic is the same.
Like that ACLU example. Okay, I see 3 periods there at the end. What's going on?
Okay, break it down. First period ends the main sentence. This concern is scarcely hypothetical.
Got it.
Second period is inside the quotation marks and inside the parenthesis. It ends the quoted sentence fragment, general revenue. And the third final period, it comes after the closing parenthesis, and it ends the entire citation sentence itself.
Okay, so each period has its own job based on the grammar. It's logical, just needs attention.
Precisely. And one last variation to watch for.
Okay.
According to the ALJ, Biestek, age, open parenthesis, he turned 50 that month. Close parenthesis adversely affected his ability to find employment.
Okay, he turned 50 that month is a complete sentence, isn't it? But there's no period inside the parenthesis here.
Correct. Because even though it's a complete thought, in this specific structure, it's functioning purely as an aside integrated within the flow of the main sentence, not standing separately like the McAfee example. So no internal period.
That's a subtle but important distinction. It's about how it functions in the sentence.
Exactly. Paying attention to these small details really shows your command of writing. It signals precision.
So wrapping this up then, we've dug into 2 really useful ways to use parentheses in legal writing.
Yeah, first, adding that extra context right inside your citations.
And second, using them for those insightful asides within your sentences themselves.
And getting the period placement right just polishes it off.
It seems like mastering these small things can genuinely make your writing clearer, more modern, more sophisticated.
Without a doubt. It enhances flow, clarity, and you can even inject a bit of your voice strategically.
So the final thought for you, the listener, maybe take a look back at some of your own recent writing.
Yeah, see where you could maybe use a parenthetical and a citation to add that crucial context.
Or where an aside in parentheses might clarify a point or add a helpful detail without breaking your stride.
You might be surprised how these little marks, open parentheses, close parentheses, can really boost the impact and professionalism of your work.
A great takeaway. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Parentheses are a great tool to whisper an aside or add detail to a citation. Check out the gallery of Supreme Court examples on the Supreme Grammar website to get more tips, including how to use that new cleaned-up citation parenthetical. And remember, you can be a great legal writer.